Hi, this is Zak Mir with the weekend edition of the Bulletin Board Heroes here on Share Talk. It's Sunday, the 25th of April. Starting off with advanced Oncotherapy, and here we've got a rebound, a two-day rebound off the 200-day moving average at 35 pence. While we're above the 200-day line, looking for a move towards the top of that rising trend channel from March last year, as high as 50 pence, and in fact, could even be as high as 55 pence, depending on exactly where I draw the line. In terms of if you're cautious and maybe want to see a bit more evidence of upside, maybe breaking that line from January at 38 pence and the 20-day line, another penny of upside might be required for those who are still remain to be convinced about the upside scenario. But at least above 35, looking forward towards 50 pence plus over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks, so maybe taking us into early June. On to a stock which has been a bit more difficult, let's say, than one would have liked it to be, given the fundamentals. A lot of choppy price action between January and now, but we've had a decent weekly close above the 200-day moving average for Bluebird Merchant Ventures. Friday's price action wholly above the 200-day line at 4.18 pence, and so while there's no end-of-day close back below the 200-day moving average, looking towards the top of that broadening triangle from May last year, as high as 7 pence by the end of June. This stage generally back below the 50-day line, 3.62, really delaying the upside scenario. Moving along to a stock which has had a good second half of the week, Bezant Resources. Here we're just finally breaking a line of resistance from November. We had a false dawn earlier in April through 0.25, so maybe the second time lucky, or maybe fifth time lucky if you look at all the other attempts to clear 0.3. In fact, I mean, if you are cautious of the shares, maybe 0.3 is a level to beat. It would be unlikely that we break 0.3 without then having some follow through. But otherwise, 0.25 plus on an end of day close basis should do the trick for Byzant on this occasion. Best case scenario target seems to be rather wild and optimistic, but it could be as high as 0.9 pence over the next 2 to 3 months. We'll see if that particular scenario pans out, obviously, but that's partly on the basis of that line of resistance from July last year, and also on the basis that in October and November, the shares seem to be quite keen to move to the upside, so that only took sort of 2 or 3 days to go through to 0.5 pence. Next up, a stock which is one of my favourites this weekend. I'm not quite sure I can reveal why, but here we go. Chamberlain. It's got a nice inverted head and shoulders formation there. We had a sort of bear trap below the 7 pence zone for the latter part of December. And we've come back now after suspension. And the view now is that while we're above 7 pence, looking for decent upside up to towards the top of that broadening triangle there from July last year, as high as 17 pence, and looking for that by the end of June at this rate. Could be quicker, but the end of June, maybe conservative time frame on Chamberlain. Another stock which seems to be reviving and rehabilitating itself at the moment is ETX. Here we've got a situation where e-Therapeutics, in other words, has broken that line of resistance from the middle of March, also closed the week above the 50-day moving average, and also made a new made a new closing high for April, the old high 23.9 pence. So while we're above the broken March resistance line at 21 pence, looking for 36 pence at the top of a rising trend channel from May last year, and the time frame on that perhaps as soon as the end of next month. Onto a stock which is sort of a perennial favourite amongst investors, perhaps hasn't done as well as they might have wished, especially with that decline that we had for March and April, which I have to say I missed out on. I didn't actually notice that, but we had a gap down through the 200-day moving average, which is never a good thing, but currently seems to be some interest towards post-July support, so 1.5 to 1.7 pence. And also, this could be the floor of a rising trend channel from June last year as well, around 1.8 pence. So a couple of plus points there, and also the way that even with this dive that we've had for the end of April, the RSI hasn't actually really gone any lower, so that does suggest bullish divergence accumulation in the stock. Probably the long and short of it is to say that while we're above 1.5 pence on an end of day close basis, this could be a bottom fishing opportunity for keen or aggressive traders. The upside then would be back towards 2.3, 2.5 pence, which is the consolidation zone that we had at the end of March and in the early part of this month. But a bit of a falling knife, but some people might be attracted to that. On to Galileo, which is a bit like Bezant. It's had quite a few false dawns over the recent past, that early April false dawn through the bull trap through the 50-day moving average, but looks a bit more encouraging now. End of day close probably through 1.6 would be enough now to confirm that we'd snapped that January resistance line and the 50-day moving average. Otherwise, if you are a bull of the stock while we're above the 200-day line, still rising at 1.21 pence, then you'd be looking for a return to the 2 pence area, which was the resistance on the way down in early February, and 2 pence plus maybe by the end of May is the time frame there. On to Kropz, which I'd never heard of before, but has still done well despite that. Beautiful break of the 200-day moving average on Thursday, follow through on Friday, and it looks as though we will hit that top of that trend channel from the end of September at 10 pence by the end of next month, or perhaps even sooner. Looks actually more even better than 10 pence here, but maybe not. Wouldn't want to get too carried away at this stage. But at least while we're above the 200-day line at 5 3/4 pence, up to 10 pence for Kropz over the near term. The stock, which took a long time to get its act together and get off the ground, but is starting to become getting a situation with increasing positive momentum, is Cadence Minerals. We had a target here previously at the October resistance line projection at 34 pence. That's valid while we hold above the late March resistance at 22, so above 22 up to 34. Best case scenario here for fans of the stock, up to 45 pence by the end of May, if we're lucky. Otherwise, sometime in June. But above 22 up to 45, the overall pattern there for Cadence Minerals. Let's see how that goes. Stock which was a winner on Friday, which managed to miss out on, is Location Sciences. Here you'll be able to see that the shares have been basically rebounding quite well over the recent past. Looks like there's a floor in place, and with the weekly close above the 50 and 200-day moving averages around the 0.47 mark, we could see the shares head towards retesting that February resistance at 0.95. If you are cautious of the stock, maybe wait for an end of day close above the initial April 0.55 resistance, but it looks as though the shares are finally on their way. Just 3 situations to go now. First one is Mustang, which has been a favorite of mine, not just because of the name, which is a cool name, but also because the shares have been performing well since the turn of the year. A bit of a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back type of situation, but looks like we're ready for the 3 steps forward now, above the 50-day moving average at 25 pence, looking towards that December resistance line projection as high as 65 pence by the end of June, which obviously is a punchy call, but we do have 25 pence or an end of day close just below that as the stop loss, so the risk reward seems to be quite good, and there is a support line there from February as well. The MACD indicator also just about to go into a buy cross, so maybe that will give some comfort to some traders who like that sort of thing. On to Universe Group, stock which I don't think I've covered for ages, but here we've had 2 gaps to the upside during April, which is normally a good sign. First one was above the 200-day moving average, which is an even better sign. And the view is that while we're above the top of the first gap at 5 pence, we're looking towards 10 pence at a June resistance line projection from last year, and that could be seen as soon as the end of May. Good to see a stock back in business, at least technically. Alien Metals have regular chats with Bill Brody. It's always an informative affair, and here we've got a rebound off the floor of that rising trend channel from September, just around the 0.9 pence. While we're above 0.9, then looking for as high as 2.5 pence on probably by the end of June. And if you are cautious, you'd wait for an end of day close through that February resistance line at 1.1 pence, but above 1.1 could lead to 2.5 pence as soon as the end of June, so sort of 2-month view on Alien Metals. That's it from me today. More updates during the week.